Hello, I am Koskela. I am presenting the paper comparing the methods of A3 and Canvas. The paper has been written by Rafael Broft, ergo Pikas, Tezel, and me. So, what are we comparing here? Around 10 years ago, two methods for collaborative problem solving and designing, A3 and Canvas, emerged in the English language literature in management, and they started to rapidly diffuse. These methods came out of the blue as the mainstream management research had been focusing on decision making rather than problem solving or designing that are covered by A3 and Canvas. Indeed, the methods come from a different place in comparison to mainstream management research. A3 has its origin in the practice of the production system, while Canvas is partially based on a doctoral dissertation in information systems, but perhaps primarily it is based on a crowd-sourced business book initiative. These two methods seem to have many similarities besides being different. They both support collaborative working and rely on visual structuring of processes or their outcomes. And the application areas seem to be at least partially overlapping. Problem solving involves designing, and in turn designing often starts from a problem. So it is of interest to analyze and compare A3 and Canvas. Especially, how are these two methods similar or dissimilar? How could they be explained theoretically? Could better understanding of them benefit when they are used in practice? And of course, from a viewpoint of lean construction, where A3 is already used, we have the question, should Canvas be taken into our toolbox too? For the needs of our comparison, let's recapitulate the basic facts about A3. So we know that it is based on a paper of the size of A3. On such a sheet, a thinking process is structured and documented. And that thinking process is generally based on Schuhart's plan, do, check, act cycle. This A3 process emerged at Toyota in the 60s in the context of Kaizen activities. We cannot name any individual developer, it just evolved in practice. This process caught the attention of Western observers at the end of the 90s, and it then took almost a decade before good books on A3 in English were published. What are there on an A3? Typically there are 8 activities and sections. As I said, so this plan, do, check, act cycle is followed, and this planning is covered by several steps: background, current conditions, target conditions, analysis especially of the root causes, proposed countermeasures. Then the do stage is covered by plan implementation, here step 6. Check is covered by step 7 here, impact and its evaluation. And acting, the last stage of PDCA, is covered by follow-up, what to do next. Regarding business model canvas, so when it has been designed by specific people, so we know what the originators had in mind. They intended to aid stakeholders in understanding a business model, and also they wanted to improve the communication based on such a shared understanding. A canvas specifies 9 elements of a business model and the relationships between the elements. The visual template is composed in such a way that it supports intuitive recognition of relationships between the elements. And here we have the business model canvas template, a schematic one. There is a more elegant drawing of this, but for copyright reasons I'm not using it here. Value proposition is at the center of the canvas. At the left side there are things which are needed for producing that value: key activities, key resources and key partners. At the right side we have where that value is going and how it is transferred to the customers. At the bottom, at the left, we have how costs accumulate, and at the right we have how money is collected from the customers. Now both methods have been fertile. They have evolved. In addition to the original problem-solving A3, new types of A3 have emerged: status A3, proposal A3 and strategy A3. And general conventions or quasi-standards about how to present all this have been developed. In turn, canvases for many new situations and contexts have been suggested. A good example is project canvas. Further, design principles have been developed for conceiving and producing canvases. Especially there's this ontology development, visualization and co-design process, which are covered in these design principles. Let us then compare these two methods. There's a long list of similarities here. So both methods allow at a glance observation. Both create shared understanding. Both document the current state and the future state. Of course, the building model canvas, the business model canvas is mostly used for presenting the future target. Both facilitate documentation of collaborative and structured work for problem solving and designing. They both follow a predefined standard template and use shared language. Both contribute to memory of the organizational unit in question. Both are focused on a subject and its dimensions, or a system and its part, and they show how the parts interrelate to each other. And finally, both require evaluation or validation. Of course, there are differences regarding what is described. So A3 is describing a thinking process, most often a sequential problem-solving process. Instead, a canvas describes a system with coherent parts, originally a business model. How are they presented? A3 has a given size of the document. Instead, canvas is flexible regarding the size. Which data are the best? A3 tries to be fact-based. Instead, canvas is opinion or idea-based, even if, of course, facts are in the background. What is the starting point of deliberation? Regarding A3, it is the root causes of the problems. In the case of canvas, it is the value to be provided to customers. How are the processes executed? Regarding A3, it is an iterative execution process. Instead, regarding canvas, the question is about a snapshot of a system. How can the methods be explained? Because there were so many similarities, so explanations are partially similar too. And of course, A3 falls into the area of visual management, and so from there some theoretical ideas can be pinpointed. So both rely on rapid and immediate access to information, supported by system 1 of cognition. Also, the phenomenon of abstraction, as defined by Barbara Tversky, is in use. When thought overwhelms the mind puts it into the world. And finally, the ideas of common ground and shared understanding supporting communication and collaboration are there. But there are theoretical differences. In A3, the PDCA cycle is used which is based on Aristotelian epistemology. Regarding canvas, there is this idea of identifying ontologically different entities, and actually I'm not quite sure how different this is from identifying a system and its distinct parts. Another idea is fit and coherence between parts of the system, and we think this is an important theoretical idea behind canvases. The originators of the canvas method mention this only in passing. Because these theoretical ingredients and foundations have not been visible, there have been tendencies towards epistemological dilution. Epistemological dilution refers to a situation where a big idea is used for creating methods, and then the methods start to diffuse instead of that big idea. And an impoverishment of understanding will result. And this is visible in both cases. Regarding A3, it is now being used without consideration of in which form the format should be, or without consideration what should be the contents. So the idea of this PDCA cycle has been lost, for example. And regarding canvases, so this project canvas can be taken as an example. At least half a dozen project canvases have been proposed, all different to each other. So this idea of ontologically grounded distinct entities and their relations has probably been lost in many cases. So what should we think about the application of these two methods in construction? Of course, we know that A3 works well, and generally we have abundantly problems in construction that can be tackled either by A3 or a canvas. The use of A3s has already started, but of course the full potential has not been reached. The use of canvases has not really started in construction. And this motivated us to think how canvases could be used in construction. One idea is to have a construction project canvas which could be used to concisely present the value of a construction project to the customer and how that value would be produced in the project and how the project would be managed to do that. And there are, of course, other topics of smaller size which can be thought of too. So we have found that both A3 and canvas work well. They are usable in construction. However, due to this epistemological dilution, adaptation of A3 and canvas to new situations has often been less successful. We propose two countermeasures. First, theoretical research for clarify the underlying theories and concepts of both A3 and canvas so that they can be presented more clearly. And also we propose creation of overarching design rules covering both A3s and canvases. The other countermeasure is applied research, developing authoritative A3 and canvas templates for specific situations in construction so that they would not need to be developed afresh every time. Thank you for your attention.